Alright, so if you don't want to go through all the complicated steps of getting a panoramic tripod head, figuring out how to use Hugin, and then finally stitching all the photos together and outputting it to a stereographic image, we can make one in Photoshop from one photo. Now this is not going to be nearly as cool as a full 360-degree panorama because we're kind of doing something, we're kind of faking it here. These are pseudo planets, that's what I call them, because they're not real 360 degree by 180 degree panoramas. We're just using a filter in Photoshop to output the photograph into a circular form, and I'm going to show you how to do that. First of all, you're going to want to choose a good picture for this. A good picture means that the horizon is going to be straight, and there's not going to be areas of the photograph where it's not equal on the left or right of the photograph. So for instance, in this picture right here, we can see that there's buildings. It's pretty consistent along most of the photograph, but right when it gets to right here, the top of this building is not on the left side of the photograph. So basically there's a building on the right side of the photograph that you can see on the very edge here, but there's not a building on the left side. And we can't use photographs that are like that because it has to be pretty much somewhat mirrored when we output it to a circular photograph. Here's another example of another photograph that is bad. It's bad because there's a tree on the left side of the photo and it's touching the edge here, but the edge of this side of the photo is mountains and it's a horizon. So if we tried to output this into a circle, there would be a seam, and it would look really cheesy and fake, and it would look pointless. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to find a photograph like this where there's just a plain horizon. It's pretty much the exact same thing on each side of the photograph. But you can see here that if we draw a line, you can actually see that the horizon on the left right here is not equal to the one on the right. The one on the right is lowered a little bit. So what we're going to do is straighten this out. We're going to grab the ruler tool right here. We're going to click and drag on the left horizon and then let go on the horizon on the right side of the photograph. After that, we're going to go up here and click straighten, and now our photograph is straight on each side. The horizons match. Next thing I'm going to do, just to make things equal, is I'm going to dodge out this little blue sky here so it matches the sky on the right, because the sky on the right is pure white as well. And after we do that, we can go to filter other offset, and now what this does is it drags the photo and then continues it on the other side of the canvas. I'm going to be placing this right here in the middle so we have a lot of room to work with. I'm going to click OK, and now I'm going to grab my clone stamp tool. And now I'm going to grab my clone stamp tool over here, and my brush is pretty soft and it's also pretty large. So I'm going to Alt click on an area that I want to copy, and I'm just going to click again to paste this in here. All I'm doing right now is just making this seam a little less noticeable to make it less cheesy looking. So I'm just going to copy an area over here and just paste it in there and make it more soft. Make that seam a little bit more soft. Just like that. Now, that's not perfect, but you can't really get it perfect because it's not a 360-degree panorama. It's just kind of a fake pseudo panorama. But that's better than that. So it looks a little bit more natural. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to crop it so we don't have all this empty sky in the composition. I'm just going to crop it right about here. And I'm going to go to Image, Crop. Now what we have to do is make this into a square image. So to do that, let's go to Image, Image Size, and we want to uncheck Constrain Proportions. So leave that unchecked, and we need to have the width and the height matching. So I'm going to put 1971 inside of the width value because the height value is that same thing. I'm going to click OK, and it's going to square up the image. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Image, Image Rotation, Flip Canvas Vertical. That turns it upside down and gets it ready so we can morph the image into a planet picture. Now to morph the image into a planet picture, we're going to click Filter, Distort, Polar Coordinates. We're going to click that, and we will get this. If we zoom out here, we can see the preview a little bit more. You can do polar to rectangular, but no one's going to be using that. We want rectangular to polar. So click OK, and there you go. There's your planet with no sky. And now if you wanted to make a tunnel, all you would have to do is just have the image right side up and not upside down. And then you would go to Filter, Polar Coordinates again, and it would make it a tunnel. Now do realize that when you use this filter, you're gonna get these stretched out pixels on the edges here. That's normal, and that's what Photoshop does when you're using this filter. It's unavoidable. And I want to show you one more example. This example is a little bit more complicated. It's not as simple and easy and dumb as this picture. I want to show you one more example here. It's not as simple as the previous grass picture that we just worked with. This is really bare bones basics. This picture is a lot better, but it's still a little bit more complicated. So the first thing that I'm going to do is just go to Filter, Other, Offset, and I want to offset to make sure that we can at least get the rocks looking legitimately kind of And now you can see in this picture that the rocks pretty much do touch the edge of the photograph on both sides. There's a little part down here where there's water touching, and it's not the same on the left side. But I mean, that's just a little part, and we can probably get around that somehow. So what we're going to do, the very first thing, is click Filter, Other, Offset, and just offset it to see what's going on here. Now, the horizon isn't the best, but that's probably because the lens I was using was not a perfect lens, so there's distortion. So I'm just going to leave it how it is right now and just leave that be. Now what I'm going to do is grab my clone stamp tool again, and I'm going to lower that size, and I'm just going to try to attempt to get rid of this seam again. So I'm going to alt click on an area that I want to copy, and then I'm just going to click like normal to paste that area back in here. And when I'm doing this, I'm just trying to attempt just to get rid of that seam so it's not extremely noticeable to the naked eye. And I would say that is about good right here. I'm gonna have to fix this area at the top a little bit more. I'm just gonna lower the size of that brush, just get in there a little bit. Now this part right here might be tricky, so what I'm going to do is just grab the horizon there and just paste that over in there. Now I'm going to erase this sky, the horizon, because you can see that the sky is bright on the right side, but it gets darker on the right side, on the left side I mean. So I'm going to grab my rectangular marquee tool. I'm going to feather this by about 8 pixels, and I'm going to make a selection right here and just get rid of that horizon right about there. And since the white color is my background color, I'm going to press Control Backspace. That's Command Backspace if you're on a Mac. And now that just got rid of my horizon completely, so it looks a little bit more clean. And now I could use my dodge tool just to maybe dodge up the sea that is a little bit bright in this area, and just kind of attempt to blend that in a little bit more. That looks kind of good right there. One last thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this layer, and I'm going to change the blending mode to screen just to make it a little bit more brighter. And then I'm going to create a layer mask here and create a gradient for the layer mask. And I think that looks good. The bottom part of the photo basically just needed a little bit more brightness. Now I'm going to click Layer, Flatten Image. Now we are ready to make this into a planet. What I'm going to do is just crop out the horizon a little bit more just to get rid of it, because that's just empty space that's not really interesting in the photo. Next, I'm going to go to Image Size, and I can actually change both of these values to get more of a mid-range, because if I entered 4259 in the height value, that means I'm stretching out the picture and I'm actually adding more information that doesn't really need to be there. But if I type in 2537 in the width value, then I'm kind of shrinking the image and I'm sort of taking away information. So what I'm going to do, just in this circumstance, I'm just going to type in 3000 for both of them and just go kind of mid-range. Click OK. And there's our picture. And now if we go to Filter, Distort, Polar Coordinates, keep in mind that this photo is right side up right now, so it's going to be a tunnel photo. If we zoom out, we can see that we get this tunnel looking picture. Now again, this isn't amazing because it's not a full 360-degree panorama, but it still has use. People can still make pretty cool images with using. People can still make pretty cool images using this technique. Let's see what it looks like when it's a planet. So let's go to Image Rotation, Flip Canvas Vertical. Now let's go to Filter and then Polar Coordinates again. It was right there. And now there's the planet. Pretty nifty. This technique, in my opinion, works best when there's not a whole lot of sky going around, because if there is sky, that means that you'll get those stretched out pixels on the edge that look like this on the edge here. And that's kind of a cheesy, it's not very good.